Hello. So it's a new month, and we are changing our focus. We are using books each month to focus our conversations at the center. This month we're using a beautiful book. It's Experiencing Spirituality. And the first topic for the month is Beyond Spirituality. This whole month we're going to be using Wednesday evening services to go even deeper into these books. For example, we'll have at our first Wednesday service coming up readings from the book with time in between to contemplate the meaning of the words, and maybe one or two of the stories from the book, because this is all about finding meaning through storytelling. And then we'll have commentary. So I'll be there, and you can bring your book along if you have it. You don't need to bring your book, but you are invited to come to the Wednesday evening service. It's wonderful. It'll give us a chance to go a little deeper, and I invite you to join me. I've been reading already ahead to frame this whole thing, and I'm really enjoying especially the opening words in which the authors talk about this important distinction between spirituality and religion, and I'm adding on to that, and belief, because they really are three different things: spirituality, religion, and belief. And they started off talking about how the word spirituality has acquired this meaning in our modern world that's a kind of reactive meaning. It means not religious. Right? It's very interesting. So that's an interesting use of the word spiritual. So whatever religion is, spirituality is not that. And I've heard people talking about the center, trying to explain what it is to friends, and they'll say, well, it's not religious, it's spiritual. And I've always smiled and thought, well, that doesn't really give a person enough information, does it? What is this stuff? We used to be called the Church of Religious Science. And that term, religious science, was such a turnoff. It represented a block so that people literally couldn't come here. That's the power of association of words. What it stands for. And wow. Last week, if you were here, we saw the video from the convention, our national convention, where we received the award for the most exemplary community among all of our centers. And there in our, it was wonderful. Yeah. And if you want to see it, you can go to our website and look at all the videos that are uploaded there. And you'll see in my acceptance speech, I say, our center is filled up with people who love our religion and wish to see it furthered in the world. And you could just see people in the audience go, he said religion. I've never heard him say that. And to tell the truth, because I'd been reading ahead, I said it on purpose. And you know why I said it on purpose? It's because religion isn't a dirty word. I know it's declined in popularity, maybe because of some unfortunate associations, but we have never been inclined to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe we can reclaim the use of this beautiful word, religion, and reframe it so that it accurately reflects what we're thinking about when we use it. And at the same time, maybe we can take another look at this word spiritual or spirituality and rather define it as something it's not that, give it its own solid, juicy, good definition. Yeah. And while we're at it, maybe we can look at the role of belief in all of this. So there it is. Spirituality, a religion, and belief. And they're not the same thing. They intersect and support each other, but they deserve their own time. So let's get started with spirituality. And I don't know about you, but my go-to start place typically is The Science of Mind, written by Ernest Holmes, because I love what he has to say. And I like arguing with him. So I go and I look up in the concordance spirituality, and I find these great things to think about, like this one over here. Spirituality is not a thing, it is the atmosphere, and I put square brackets there because he used the word God. And last month we read from the author of last month's book how important it is for us to get our own word. Okay? Spirituality is not a thing. It is the atmosphere of the thing itself, presence, which he defines as goodness, truth, and beauty. So it's not a thing, I guess, in the same way that a religion or a denomination or a practice or a tradition could be called things. No, spirituality, he says, is something else. It's an atmosphere. It's the pervading mood or the tone of something. Ambiance, that's what it is. That's the character of something. Of what? It's the mood of the presence of the thing itself. It's how things are when you're in it. He goes on to say, and I like this so well, I put all the words up there, they're so good, it's a lot of words. Yeah. Listen to this. Spirituality may be defined as an atmosphere of good, the realization of God. It cannot and does not borrow its light from another, no matter how great or noble that other may be. It springs from within, coming from that never-failing fountain of life which quenches every thirst, whose source is in eternity, the wellspring of self-existence. It is a revelation of the self to the self, putting one back on the track of their own self-dependence on spirit, their own at-one-ment with reality. Now, he says spirituality is an experience of at-one-ment. It's a play on words, of atonement, because in our tradition, typically when we say atonement, we are talking about reconnection, reunification. And he says that this atmosphere, this experience, it springs from within, meaning it's deeply personal. And it doesn't borrow its light from another, no matter how bright that light may be. Because you see, I might like your spirituality a whole lot, but mine is mine and yours is yours. And then religion is what you and I do to take us back to that experience of being in the atmosphere of the one. It's what we do to take us back to that experience of at-one-ment. So religion is the system. It's the thing that you do. Now, some might call that my practice. That's their religion. It's made up of the ceremonies, practices, the rules that they make for themselves. I will not kill, because that's not being in at-one-ment. And the word, I'm told, religion, comes from the early word religare. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Latin. It means to tie back, to link back. So, to me, religious practices then are intended to link us back to that atmosphere of being in the one. And then I get to ask the question, what do you do, Edward? What do you do to get back into that atmosphere? Because it's so easy to step out of it, isn't it? I mean, sometimes all it takes is a stubbed toe. Why, just the other day, I stubbed my toe on an email that somebody sent me. And I'm sure it wasn't intended, but I took it as a painful letter. And then I let it stay with me for the whole week. And I thought about it all the time, and it became my God. And all the meaning of the email wrapped itself around my head like an octopus. Pushed every one of my buttons, even the ones I didn't know I had. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah, what do you do to get back? Because that's your religion. Do you pause for a moment and mindfully say, there is only one life? That life is God's life. That life is perfect. that life is my life now, because that is your religion. So you might ask, well, what are the religious practices taught at the center? Well, there are 5 main pillars, and they're intended to form the foundation of a spiritual life. They're intended, when used frequently, to act as that system that links us back to the atmosphere of being in the One. They're intended to be used when you and I have lost our way, to act as a path back to at one-ment. So there's prayer, many kinds of prayer. We teach a particular kind. We call it spiritual mind treatment. It's the active form of spirituality. The counterpart is meditation, the receptive part, where you practice being in tune with intuition and listening to the silence. And there's circulation. You heard... no, I don't know if you did hear that. Was that last service? Class is starting on Tuesday. Circulation is where we reflect upon our ability to give, to receive, to circulate, to be in the flow, and how that helps us feel integrated into the oneness. That's starting on Tuesday. Spiritual study. Reverend Joyce finished a course just last week on spiritual... No, she did on selfless service. But we're always presenting classes to integrate these practices. I mention it because the answer to the question, what is your religion, might be a combination of these, or it might be something completely different. So when somebody says, what is your religion? All you have to do, all I have to do is think about, what do I do when I've stubbed my toe? What do I do to go back? Take that in and tell them about it, because that's my religion. How the Dalai Lama expressed it, these words are ascribed to him when asked what is his religion. My religion, he said, is very simple. My religion is kindness. So it doesn't need a name or an institution. I mean, what are we going to say? We come to the Center for Spiritual Living. What are we? Spiritual livers? You see, and he explains it further. He says, this is the Dalai Lama, there is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophies. My brain and my heart are my temples, and my philosophy is kindness. So he practices kindness. He doesn't need a temple or a club or an institution or a religion to do. I'm sure he probably has got a methodology for his practice. He probably has practices that he does religiously. That's another beautiful use of the word religious. You know, when you say, I do it religiously, it means I do it in a certain way, right? In a certain mindset. If I do something religiously, it means probably I do it with focus, mindful focus, mindfulness itself, regularity, and with respect. That's what religious means, religiously. So you think about whatever it is you do. If it's spiritual mind, if it's prayer, when you do you do it with respect? Are you focused? Are you there for it? Is it regular? When you do circulation, you're giving and receiving, is it enough in your life that it's a thing? Do you do whatever it is you do to link you back to the atmosphere of being in the One? Do you do it with focus, with mindfulness, with regularity, with respect? Do you do it religiously? Oh, that's a lovely meaning of the word religious. I'm religious for spirituality's sake. Now, you don't need a religion to connect you back to that atmosphere. Now, some people don't want you to know that. But you don't. It can happen quite spontaneously all by itself. Why, just the other day, yesterday, in fact, I was out riding my bicycle. I went for a 51-mile ride. Yeah. and it hailed, and it rained, and then it stopped. And so all the time there was this changing environment. And, at this one moment, I paused to look because there it was, Sonoma County. Oh my gosh. There was this moment where there was this avenue of blossoming trees, probably plum. They were just starting to show this purpley mauve blossom. And when the growth is just starting, it's not fully green yet, it's kind of lime green. So set on the backdrop of this lime green growth, and then in the front, all the mustard, and in the sky, clear here and dramatic there. And I just stopped. I got off the bike and I just stopped and I looked at it and I went, oh my goodness. I had this moment of expansion and awe and a feeling of being reconnected back, reconciled. And the feeling that went with it is a feeling of it's all going to be okay. Just standing there. And then a little further on when I was riding, I came upon a church, and outside the church was this beautiful statue of Jesus with his arms outstretched like this. And somebody had brought flowers and placed them mindfully at the feet of the statue. And I looked at that, and it reminded me of the devotional practices I've witnessed in Bali, where people will bring flowers or incense or petals or this or that or offerings every single day into a temple and spend a moment of mindfully thinking about it. And it occurred to me that whether we are standing in a field of mustard or engaged in a religious practice, the real question is, do I let that moment of mindfulness work in me so that I contribute to this world to make it a better place just because I was born in it? Do I let it work in me? So spirituality is the mood, the atmosphere of being connected consciously. Religion is the practice that I use to reconnect myself when I think I'm separated. Now, what about belief? Well, now that's where it gets tricky. Ooh. Because again, it's deeply personal. Very personal. See, in a way, your belief is your answer to the question, what do you think is going on here? What's going on? What's it all about? And we humans run into trouble with this because one of the things we don't want to accept is that your guess is as good as mine. And you know where else we humans run into trouble is we run into trouble every time when we want to try to make other people think and believe what we think and believe. I think the world is flat, and you should also, because if you don't, I'm going to feel very insecure. I understand that. Because I can see how I feel better when more people agree with my beliefs. So I try to enroll them. It's called conversion. Because the more people who believe it, the more I can relax. Because then it must be so. But, and there's a big but, but the reality is it's just my belief. That's all it is. And there are as many ways to believe as there are people on the planet and beyond that too. And beliefs are simply filters through which an individual looks to try and make sense out of this reality. Why would I kill anybody over that? And beliefs change and grow and evolve, and sometimes they're just plain wrong. It happens. The world isn't flat. And sometimes they're limited. And what I believe is my business and what you believe is your business. And it's okay to share and discuss and argue about it, but not to impose and murder. Now, I've shared what I personally believe with you over the years, and it's changing all the time. It's evolving all the time. And currently, it goes something like this. I believe that there is something essentially right about this world, and that every being can experience or be supported in experiencing more joy. And I believe that kindness for me is the most powerful pathway to contributing, supporting this joyful experience. And that for me, practice such as prayer, meditation, circulation, study, and service is the best way for me to find and experience the fullness of life and share it. And I believe that there is one, whatever it is, which currently I call divinity. And I believe that all of creation originates in this divinity. It's the one source. That's what I call it. And it's what I mean when I say spirit is all there is. That's what I mean. And I believe everything comes from it, and everything is contained within it. Now, I can see that many different terms are used in various cultures and religions to express this concept of oneness, and some of them I like more than others. And the one I appreciate the most is the one that each individual discovers for themselves. I like that one. So whether someone is saying the thing itself, or spirit, or God, or life, or love, or first cause, or the love intelligence that governs the universe, or the ground of all being, or universal mind, or the changeless one, or Mother, Father, God, or the infinite knowingness, or the supreme being, or the divine presence, or whatever it is, I believe they're all talking about the same thing that Emerson called the oversoul, that Native Americans refer to as Great Spirit, that Lao Tzu called the Tao. And I have come to believe that despite my feelings of separateness, that this oneness is irrevocable, eternal. It's who I am, and that it can never be lost or damaged or diminished or destroyed throughout my eternal journey. And I believe that right now and forever, I am a product of the mind of the thing itself. And I've heard this idea expressed in various ways, as being a child of God, as being a channel for spirit, as being an outlet for creation, as being a point of inspiration within the mind of creation. You know, whatever the right phrase is, whatever the correct way of saying it is, I believe, and I believe that we inherit the nature of the Creator. And that, by that, I mean it is crystal clear to me that our thoughts are creative and that we are incredibly powerful. And that we are waking up to use that power more and more every day. And that as we do so, we are realizing that the more we train our thought to dwell upon our true nature, the less we become victims of the hidden chains that bind us to ideas that are limiting and or wrong. I believe that there is a spiritual law of order that governs this universe, and I believe that we can see that law in action in our own lives, especially when we begin to pay mindful attention to the relationship between giving and receiving and sowing and reaping and thinking and creating. And I believe that misunderstanding this or ignoring these natural balances does not excuse me from enduring the effects of living out of balance with it. I do. I believe it. And furthermore, I believe that this one, whatever it is, has no center, no circumference, no limits. And it was never created. And it can't be uncreated. And it never started. It didn't begin. And it doesn't end. And so I call that the infinite. And to me, infinite means abundant. And abundant to me means more than I can ever imagine. And so I look to the numbers of physical forms around me for illustration of that. For example, the endless supply of pollen. Or just the sand on the beach. Or I look to the number of ideas that pour through us and result in miraculous inventions, marvelous works of art, incredible acts of compassion. And I'm amazed, and I think to myself, I am part of that. This infinite bounty, it's my birthright. But not only mine, every being's. And it occurs to me to share what I have learned so that people everywhere can shake loose if there are any chains hidden in them that bind them to ideas that tell them they are less than. I do believe that there is something essentially right with this world. And I believe that there is something intrinsically good about people and that we are endowed with free will. And I believe that what the world calls evil is not an independent entity or power. I believe that I, together with everyone else, experience and create and further evil to the degree that we are out of alignment with spiritual laws. And that when we come back into alignment, all things are made new and we experience this atmosphere called atonement. I believe that the thing itself is limitless and it extends in time and space in all directions. And I call this eternality. And it's helped me to think this thought. I understand that any moment that I'm experiencing is eternity. And I've come to learn again and again that human forgiveness is the process that frees me up to live in eternity more fully. And furthermore, I don't expect you to believe any of this. I really don't. I hope that you will develop some religious practices in your life that will over and over again link you back to the experience of that something, the atmosphere of it. And that out of these spiritual awarenesses, you will develop your own beliefs that will guide you to make a difference in this world just because you were born in it. In the book, they quote Rabbi Yerachmiel, who talks about spirituality so beautifully, saying, can somebody advance to the next? There it is for me. Spirituality is paying attention. Spirituality is being present to what is happening around and within you. Spirituality is living in the world with compassion and justice. Spirituality is making the world a little better for your having been born into it. Spirituality is meeting the thing itself in the ordinariness of our everyday lives. Beautiful. I invite you to breathe in with me. And as you exhale, let your eyes close if you feel inclined to do that, so that we may have a moment of prayer. This is part of what might be our religious practice. If you choose to, it can be part of yours, prayer. And it is our custom in prayer to turn within, to take time mindfully, to recognize that presence, the thing itself, to dwell in its nature and think upon what it might be. And it can be done wordlessly. And sometimes we use words. And we call the names that we are fond of. We say it is love, something like that. It is all in all. And we dwell upon this so that we may have in time a recollection that we are at one with it. It is where we are. We are in the thing itself. This sense of reunification is so valuable during those times when I may feel like I have stepped out of that awareness. So in my prayer time, I think about my unity with all that is. And as I dwell upon this, it is natural for me to have a realization, like an aha moment, in which from the sense of unification I see, as if with new eyes, looking through to the heart, to the truth of everything, to the awe, to the splendor of nature, to the beauty of the Divine One showing up in the ordinary relationships of my life. And this realization I might even experience as a sense of wholeness. I might even call it healing. Because through it, new pathways become evident to me. New ideas are made welcome in me. New connections and sense of wellness reveal themselves to me. And it is natural for me to feel a sense of joy as I dwell upon this. I am free from coercion, free from superstition, but I am celebrating the spiritual laws that govern the universe. That's why I salute them in my prayer. I even might say the formula of I release this word of prayer into the law of mind. It's just my way of remembering to stay gracefully out of control. And then according to our tradition, which could be yours if you wanted it, the way we say amen here is to say together, and so it is.